The Vikings and the Eagles are two teams in a lot of flux right now, and they're meeting head-to-head on Sunday. Welcome to Crossover Thursday on the Locked On Podcast Network.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, Vikings fans, Eagles fans. Welcome into a Crossover Thursday here, both Locked On Vikings and Locked On Eagles. My name is Luke Braun. I cover the Vikings here with Louis DiBiase, covers the Eagles, and we're here to break down the upcoming Vikings-Eagles matchup. This Crossover Thursday is brought to you by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Louis, we are both we've been doing this here at Locked On for a few years now, and it's always fun when you get to go up against a team that's in just as much turmoil as you are.
Right.
Eagles on a 2-game losing streak, all kinds of weird vibes. I've been looking forward to this crossover for like a week because we were on our bye, and I was like, I cannot wait to ask Louis about all this stuff, especially after losing to the Giants. Obviously, the Vikings are in their own flux as well. We'll talk about J.J. McCarthy, Carson Wentz. That is an ever-evolving situation. But where I want to, I guess, start is with the Eagles' struggles. They haven't stopped the run nearly the same way. They haven't run the ball nearly the same way. The receivers are mad. Is everybody upset with Jalen Hurts? Does it go up to the top? What is going on?
Yeah, man. No,
broad strokes here.
It's not black and white. I mean, there's a lot that's going wrong with this football team this year. And there's a lot that's going right, though, too. I mean, they were 4-0. They're 4-2 still, first place in the NFC East. They've beaten a lot of good teams this year. Still a really good roster on paper. I think some of it's out of their control. It's just the natural life cycle of a team that just won a Super Bowl, right? You have a tougher schedule. Everybody's going to give you their best every single week. They're dealing with a lot of injuries. Naturally, their roster's thinner because a lot of guys cashed in after winning a championship and left in free agency. Coaches also got better jobs. Yeah.
Yep.
So like this happened in 2023 with the Eagles after a Super Bowl run. This happened in 2018 after a Super Bowl run. Some of it's just out of their control. The things that they can control that they're really struggling with right now, most of it is on the offensive side of the football. Yet again, I think they made a mistake internally promoting a coach to become their new play caller and offensive coordinator. Kevin Patullo has been a problem this year. And the other problem is the elephant in the room. Jalen Hurts is a limited pocket passer. Let's just call a spade. Outside of 2022, that's who he's been. And the run game has not been consistent this year. So the passing game has its high highs, but very low lows as well. And the run game is normally supposed to be the identity of this football team that carries them. But because the offensive line is so banged up, they haven't been able to run with consistency. So I think really that's the main problem that they can control is that the offense hasn't been able to run the football and the play calling just isn't good enough to, and the passing game's not good enough to carry them.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of follow-ups that I have. So I'll give you this. So the Vikings' run defense is a bottom 5 unit right now. It's been absolutely terrible. Javon Hargrave can't hold a double team. I'm sure you're familiar with that. He gets sledded constantly. Jonathan Allen is here too, getting sledded a lot. They actually got, in the last game the Vikings played, the Quinshon Judkins hung 110 on them, and those guys were getting pulled off for entire drives, not just rotationally. Jalen Redmond and Levi Drake Rodriguez are kind of the second team D tackles, and they got just as many snaps as the starters because they can hold up maybe a little better against the run. They're just not quite as much. But the Vikings have made this deal with the devil where they're going to get interior pressure. And they have generated a ton of that.
Yeah.
But now they're just getting, everybody can just run on them. And now we're going up against one of the spookiest run games in the league, but it's slumping. What is going on? Why isn't it the same? Is it just that you missed Landon Dickerson that much and looks like he's going to come back this week?
I think a lot of it's they're really injured still from the Super Bowl run. Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens were dealing with pretty serious injuries they played through in the NFC Championship and in the Super Bowl. Dickerson then got hurt right before the season, suffered an ankle injury a couple weeks ago. He's dealing with 3 to 4 different injuries. Cam Jurgens at center isn't 100% either. So I think most of it is a result of just bad health on the offensive line. And Tyler Steen at right guard's a new starter. He's good, but he's nowhere near as good as Mekhi Becton was in 2024, and he left in free agency, getting a big deal with the Los Angeles Chargers. So I think a lot of it is just the health of the offensive line. Because when you look at Saquon Barkley, like, yes, naturally throughout the history of the NFL, when a guy sees the historic usage rate that Saquon saw last year, they tend to break down or just not nearly be as productive. I mean, you look at Adrian Peterson after 2012, like I can think of DeMarco Murray after 2014, Sean Alexander.
Chris Jones back in CJ2K.
Yeah, right? So, normally that happens, but when you look at Saquon this year, it's not like, okay, clearly he's lost a step or he's struggling. I think it's more a byproduct of the offensive line just being very out of sync right now. So I think it's a matter of when, not if, this run game will bounce back, and hopefully it is against Minnesota, because again,
this is the time to do it. Like, this is your
if you're not going to do it now, like I don't know when you're going to do it, and you have to do it because again, the passing game, I don't think it's going to get much better. Like, yeah, I don't think they'll be as inept in the second half as they've been all year long. But again, outside of 2022, this has never been, when Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni run your organization, you're normally not winning because the passing game is succeeding, throwing 30 to 40 times a game. That just doesn't tend to work for this football team, even with all the talent they have.
So it's interesting. One of the revelations of the Vikings season has been on the back end. It's been Isaiah Rodgers. He's a freak.
Dude,
He's
it's the biggest miss of the offseason that they did not re-sign Isaiah Rodgers. They are paying for it in Philadelphia right now, not having that guy at corner.
So there was a big, like, Keely Ringo kind of got picked on in that Giants game, but it sounds like you're not going to see as much of him if Quinyon Mitchell comes back. So, and that kind of always made sense to me. Like, you've got these young guys, they're up and coming, and Isaiah Rodgers was just like the odd man out. And Brian Flores did the thing he does where every once in a while he picks some player nobody else has heard of and been like, that's the guy. And that was Van Ginkel in Miami, and it's Isaiah Rodgers here. It's been like Blake Cashman was like, who cares about Blake? No, he's actually like a really important.
I feel like Grenard is like that too. That's the whole Vikings defense.
He probably should have been more of a household name in Houston.
Super underrated, yeah.
Because he was really, really productive. I think it's because his name is boring.
That might be it, yeah.
No, but so like Isaiah Rodgers has been this revelation, but he's not just locking dudes up in man coverage. He's making zone coverage plays, making smart plays. He's getting a peanut punch, and then the 2 touchdowns he got against the Bengals is just him being fast. And same with the blocked kick against the Steelers. But like, boy, 5 weeks in, that's a lot of stuff. So that secondary, though, is still, I would say, more of a weakness that the Vikings are like doing a good job of hiding. You've got Jeff Okudah on the field a lot, and it's not killing you, right? Like, you're not asking those guys to do a ton because they're generating so much pressure up front. So with Tyler Steen or Landon Dickerson, if he's healthy, or maybe hobble Landon Dickerson or Brett Toth or whatever, can you keep Jalen Hurts upright? And I think if you can, then the zones simplify a lot after the first second and a half of the play. Kind of once you get to that top of your drop, the read is completely simplified. It's just you didn't know where everybody was coming from. And then you can maybe make a play doing that. Or could this be a game where the Eagles just say, nope, y'all are just kind of lighting the fanny and we're just going to run you over?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I think they need to establish the run, because when you look at the Vikings defense and how defenses are playing Jalen Hurts this year, they're not doing what they did last year, where they're putting 8 to 9 guys in the box. They are blitzing the hell out of them, because Jalen actually did figure out that part of his game. He, for years, could not, like when he played a Todd Bowles-led defense in Tampa Bay, he could not figure out the blitz. But this year, teams are only rushing like 3 to 4 on Jalen, especially in the second half of football games, because he is really struggling against zone coverage right now, like specifically cover 2. I don't know if it's because last year he played this game manager safe style that helped them win a championship, and now he's almost like gun shy to throw into tight windows. But he has to be willing to do that, because although he's not turning the football over, the Eagles have been really good at limiting turnovers this year. Last week was his first game he had an interception in a football game this year. But taking sacks and having the most 3 and outs in the NFL, I don't think is much better. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think Minnesota runs cover 2 like almost as much as anybody in the NFL. So I just feel like they have to figure that out. Yeah, I mean, they got to figure out zone coverage in general. That's been a huge problem in the second half of games when defenses adjust.
Yeah, it's not just if you're talking about like the way like True Media and PFF cut it up, that includes invert 2, that includes Tampa 2. Like, there's a lot of different versions that'll fall in the cover 2 bucket.
And he's not really great with any of them, to be honest.
Flores' like favorite. Those are like Flores' favorite coverages, especially behind a blitz. That it'll be like a 2 high and then 3 or 4 under, or a lot of times it'll actually be quarters like palms with 2 hook defenders, and then the corners kind of play up or down. So it depends on a lot of other stuff, but that's been the Flores thing for a while. And what I think is funny, and we'll go to the other side of the ball here in just a second, but what I think is funny is last time these teams played, and last time the Vikings went up against Jalen Hurts and that crazy O-line and all that stuff that the Eagles were doing, the Brian Flores defense was in beta testing. It was his second game. He was trying like a 3-3-5 thing that he never went back to after that game.
Yeah.
And because they had like 240-pound Ivan Pace in the A-gap against like a zone run, and Landon Dickerson was just like, ooh, food. It was like a pretty dumb game plan in hindsight, but it was like this weird idea of like, let's go super hyper speed, and he was trying to do something, and the Flores defense, as we kind of came to know it over that year, hadn't really coagulated yet. So you kind of got this weird, like, it's like almost, if you ever seen like testing a video game before all the graphics are done, and you get into the level and it's just like squares coming at you. Like,
I was gonna say you're like a quarter through the city swinging around as Spider-Man, and then the whole city just like goes gray, and there's no design left.
And it's just a bunch of like colorless blocks because they haven't put the textures on it yet. Like, that's that was kind of what you were dealing with. And so now we've had a long time to refine this, to see teams solve it, and then to respond to those solutions, and then solve again, and then respond to those solutions. And it is sort of settled into what I think its long-term version is. And that's a much different thing. We'll see how it works, especially with attacking Jalen Hurts. But it's not like the Vikings are firing on all cylinders here. And I'm sure that you guys all want to know about what's going on with your good old buddy Carson Wentz. That'll be next here on Crossover Thursday. This Crossover Thursday episode is brought to you by Built. Look, rent sucks. Paying your rent is awful, but that's where Built comes in. Built is changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards you can actually use. When you pay rent through Built, you can earn flexible points that can be redeemed toward all kinds of things: hotels, airlines, a Lyft ride, even a future rent payment, and much, much more. But Built isn't just about rent. It's about rewarding you and your entire neighborhood. Look, you got to cough up that money anyways. You might as well get some rewards for it and build towards something that actually feels kind of good. Get your rent payment working for you with Built. From your neighborhood to your travel plans. Turn your rent into rewards and start earning points around your neighborhood by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnfl. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonnfl. Make sure to use that link so they know that we sent you. This episode is also brought to you by Mint Mobile. Oh wait, no, I didn't pull up that. Hold on. We're not done yet. Here it is. There's the snaps. We're doing really good. I'm not frazzled at all today. Okay. Today's episode is also brought to you by Mint Mobile. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. If you make the switch, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Mint makes it simple. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can even bring your own phone and keep your same number and contacts. Just get the better plan. And the setup is super easy. You keep your number, you keep everything that's in it, and you don't have to deal with flipping over an entire part of your life. You're up and running in minutes. If you're ready to say yes to saying no, make the switch at mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. That's mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time new customer for offer for the first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. Moving on here with the Locked On crossover, Locked On Vikings, Locked On Eagles. Just ask the question, Louis.
Yeah, is Carson Wentz starting or is it J.J. McCarthy? I think all Eagles fans want to know.
So.
Is it that? You're like, so the answer is yes.
The answer is I think so, but we can't be sure yet. I think it's Wentz. So for this game, they both are coming in with injuries. Wentz has a sore shoulder. It's not his throwing shoulder. And Kevin O'Connell has said that essentially he can gut it out if he has to. And he did in that Browns game. He returned and threw the rest of the passes. Didn't seem to take any heat off the passes. Didn't seem to affect him. That he was doing plenty of other stuff on his own to affect his game. So, and he was a full participant in practice. So he'll be healthy and ready to go if needed. J.J. McCarthy, recovering from a high ankle sprain, was limited in practice on Wednesday. We will continue to watch the practice reports. In fact, dear listener, as you hear this, you might know more than we do because we're recording this before we know about the Thursday practice. But the idea is that, they got J.J. McCarthy even went in front of the media and they asked him and he said, it's definitely not 100%. So his ankle's not 100%. And, we've got to be smart. And he's like, I want to be out there. And then he said all the right things. But as it seems, Kevin Seifert of ESPN says he expects it to be Wentz. It is very much trending toward Carson Wentz. But if it's Thursday and you see J.J. McCarthy, full participant, and, people say, hey, he's looking real limber out there. And like, if you see the reporters go with that, maybe McCarthy makes a surge at the end of the week to be ready. But it kind of sounds like we're still not quite there yet, which, it's been 5 weeks since he suffered a high ankle sprain. High ankle sprains tend to be a 4 to 6 week injury. So we're kind of right in the range where you're supposed to be a maybe, and he's a maybe. But I would say if I were a betting man, I would say that it's going to be Wentz this week.
Carson Wentz and Justin Jefferson handing the Eagles their third straight loss might send everybody in the city of Philadelphia into a mental hospital. I mean, because if you look back,
that would be psychic damage.
It's an unbelievable story if that happened, because Justin Jefferson, if they make that pick instead of Jalen Reagor in 2020,
oh no,
there's a scenario
about that.
Dude, I talked about this on the show yesterday. There's a scenario where this era of Eagles football never happens if they draft Justin Jefferson. So watching Wentz and Jefferson connect really well in Minnesota, for me, is very intriguing to watch, because it's almost like I'm watching an alternate reality.
It is like an alt-universe.
It's like I'm watching an Eagles version of a Ricky Morty episode. I'm like, this is what we could be right now, which is solid, but it's clearly not what the Eagles have been. So if that duo that should have been in Philadelphia hand the Eagles their third straight loss and set this city on fire, which it's already getting there, like, that would be an unbelievable storyline. So for me,
I think if Philadelphia is always at least a little bit on fire.
I was going to say, it's like ready to be. It's like, just say the word and I'll light this gasoline on fire. That's right, a city even when you win multiple Super Bowls. But that storyline
when you win multiple Super Bowls.
Yeah, so as the journalist in me wants Carson Wentz to start, I think actually from a competitive advantage standpoint, though, for the Eagles, if we'll see what happens with Quinyon Mitchell. He did return to practice today, but let's say he doesn't play or he's limited, and Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson have to play, which is extremely concerning against Jefferson and Addison. I would almost rather have McCarthy play just because it's only going to be his third start, and I think Wentz obviously holds on to the football still. He makes some crazy throws and fumbles that can still give the Eagles opportunities to get sacks and turnovers, but I think there's like throws he can still make that are unbelievable, and I think he can better maximize Jefferson and Addison right now. I don't know if you agree with that, but for me, like with the Eagles cornerback problem, I don't know. Wentz, I feel like with Jefferson is a matchup I'm a little bit nervous about, to be honest, if Quinyon's not out there.
If Quinyon's not out there, that's a big deal. It's a Fangio defense, and I at least learned the Fangio defense when Donatel was here for the 1 year.
Right.
So I learned what the scheme is and how it works and all the cover six and stuff that the Eagles still really, really like to do cover six and like barely run any cover two. Which I wonder if that mattered for Hurts, by the way, if the Eagles defense just ran way less cover two, so he didn't practice against it. But
maybe
maybe right. But with the difference between them, to me, is in complexity. Carson Wentz got here on cutdown day. And so he's only been in the building for a month.
And by the way, it's only because the Eagles traded for Sam Howell. Like, the Eagles kept Carson Wentz employed by getting Howell from Minnesota.
That's right. He went to the Eagles.
I forgot the connection
about that.
continues.
The connection is crazy. Yeah. That was an interesting choice Howie Roseman made. I'll say that because Sam Howell was about to get cut. Mm-hmm. He had a dreadful preseason, but and Wentz has definitely done better than I think what we all would have expected from Howell if he had to start for 3 or 4 games. But the thing about it is it's a lot of stick. It's a lot of kind of universal concepts or the very bare basics. It's a very elementary kind of high school version of this offense because Wentz has only been here for a month, so he doesn't know all the really big complexities.
Yeah, good point.
They have run a much more diverse playbook in the 2 games that JJ McCarthy was there. Now, the problem is some of those other concepts that they threw away, they probably should have thrown away anyways because some of that offense didn't work, but they aren't really able to push the ball as often downfield. They're really just trying to get the ball out. They call a lot more really simple 3-level read rollouts rather than some of the interesting wrinkles that Kevin O'Connell really wants to do. It's limited and it's simplistic. And I think for a Fangio defense, the less wrinkles you have, the easier it's going to be for that. So I don't necessarily think that even though Carson Wentz can get the ball out a little quicker, some of that quick game is because quick game is all we actually know how to run with him because quick game's pretty universal. Everybody knows how to throw stick, right? Like he's done that at all his stops. So I don't necessarily think so.
Okay.
But the problems with JJ McCarthy still could be like he holds the ball a little bit longer, right? Because he's trying to go a little bit deeper. I think he reads the field a little slower because he's young. I think he has a scramble instinct that is probably incorrect a lot, that he goes early, he goes late. So there's all those other problems that you definitely could still take advantage of. But I think if it is Wentz, becomes the simplest game plan the Eagles probably need to put together in a while. They won't need to deal with a lot of complexity, which sort of takes the teeth out of the O'Connell offense, but it'll be like functional. That's been the debate. Yeah. And there's been a huge debate in Minnesota over like, who should it be? Carson Wentz is 2-1. Look at the EPA. And I think what people are missing is that like this is a backup quarterback offense, and it's now week 4 of a backup quarterback offense. You got all the tape in the world to figure out, they're just running these like 4 plays. It's fine. We're gonna do just fine.
I think regardless, the Eagles pass rush, if it's Wentz or McCarthy, like they need to get to those guys. If they have time, I am a little bit nervous about that secondary. We'll see what happens. The Eagles pass rush this year has not been great. Zadarius Smith retired this week, so they don't even have one of the more consistent veteran edge rushers.
What?
I guess there's a reason that he was available during the start of the season anyway. It doesn't sound like it was because of anything inside the locker room, but he was actually pretty good for 4 games. Nolan Smith is also on injured reserve.
Just couldn't do it anymore.
That's what it feels like.
And went, nope.
Yeah, and they lost 2 straight. Maybe he's like, I don't see it with this team. I don't know. But right now it's only like Josh Uche, Jalix Hunt, and Azeez Ojulari. Luckily, Jalen Carter said today he'll be playing in this game on Sunday, so the interior pressure should be there. That's a huge boost. But the Eagles have not been the same pass rush as last year, so they got to get these quarterbacks to the ground. Finishing has been a big problem this year, so not letting either of these mobile quarterbacks make plays outside of structure, I think is going to be really important.
Yeah, and it's been a minute. Wentz ain't the mobile quarterback he used to be.
He still has the instinct.
Not. He still thinks he is. And he still
I think that's part of the problem. He's never adjusted his play style after all the injuries. Like he still thinks he can move like it's 2016, which is just not the case.
As detailed by 2019 Eagles players.
Right.
that is the problem. But he's made some cool plays in a scramble drill. He had a really cool touchdown in the Steelers game to Xavier Scott. If anybody woke up early enough to watch that, he's had some cool scrambly plays and some good hero moments. Game-winning drive at the end of that Browns game. So it hasn't been all bad for sure, but it's limited. It's a limited offense. It's a fraction of the playbook that Kevin O'Connell wants it to be. So I think they really, really want to get the real guy out there to really still do that. But you can't rush the high ankle. So that's going to be what it's about. But we've got, it's like Revenge Game City. Carson Wentz, Isaiah Rodgers. Is Lewis Seen still in the building? He could technically...
They cut him, unfortunately, before the season started.
Either way, let's talk about who will prevail and what it comes down to next here on the Locked On crossover. This Locked On crossover is brought to you by Mazda. At Mazda, they pay attention to all of the details. And Louis and I have been talking about quite a few of these details in this matchup with the Vikings and Eagles. Mazda takes it very seriously as well. They bring the same intention to how they craft every model, from Japanese craftsmanship that you can feel in all the little details, the metallic accents, the Napa leather upholstery, and the all-wheel drive, which is standard into every crossover SUV, so you can have that confidence through any season, no matter where you are. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. Like NFL players, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, Louis, the rubber's meeting the road here. So I think that this game can be characterized, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I think this game can be characterized as two teams that are underachieving their talent, and who can figure out how to realize their potential becomes the winner here.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I think that's certainly the case for the Philadelphia Eagles, because again, there's a lot of things in a post-Super Bowl season that they're dealing with, and they've lost a lot of talent on both sides of the ball, including Isaiah Rodgers, who they could really use a corner right now. But still on paper, this is one of the deeper, more talented teams in the NFL. You can make the argument still the best roster put together in the NFL. They've won 4 games. They are 4-2. So it really is just about getting rid of the self-inflicted wounds. They're atop the league in personal foul, unnecessary roughness calls and unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. They need to get that under wraps. And then things they're normally great at. They were so good all of last year in the second half of just putting a stranglehold on teams when they have a lead. And this year they've been one of the worst second half offenses in the entire NFL. So it's just a lot of uncharacteristic struggles from this football team. And this is a gut check game. I said that on the show the other day, because you're 4-2, you've dropped 2 games straight. Are you going to let this kind of be like 2023 where you just can't stop the bleeding and you collapse? Or is it like last year after that Tampa blowout loss in week 4, after the bye week, you went on a 10-game win streak and it completely changed your season? This is kind of, you're at a crossroads in this year, which version of the Eagles you're going to be. So it's on the road. It's not an easy test against, like you said, a talented Vikings roster on both sides and good coaching. So I'm really intrigued what version of the Eagles you're going to get, because if it's that dead dog walk-in they got on Thursday against the Giants, they're not coming out of that game with a win.
You could tell the timing was off and the energy was off.
Oh, yeah.
I remember thinking
Everything
I've
was
never
off.
seen the Eagles in the second half be this passive, the way the defense was,
that's the right word, is passive.
Physicality.
They're not going for the kill.
Yeah, it was and so here's the interesting thing, and this is gonna maybe not make any listeners happy on either side of this, but this is gonna be a 60-minute contest if what you're saying about the second half Eagles is true, because the Vikings have been abysmal in the first halves. They have fallen into a hole in 4 of 5 games, and they won 2 of those. They came back with big fourth quarters against the Bears and the Browns, but they took a long time to figure out how to walk in those games. And then in the other ones, they didn't come back. I mean, in Atlanta, they died, and the Steelers, they made a comeback effort, but it was too little too late. So they have struggled a lot. I mean, they have had 4 of 5 games. They've had 6 or less points going into halftime. I mean, it's nasty. Can't score a touchdown. The only game where they have had a hot start was the Bengals collapsing in front of them with Jake Browning, and that feels difficult to give them too much credit for, considering that kind of everybody's had their way with them. So if what you're saying is true, I do see that this is a game where the Eagles get out to a lead, and then it comes down to, can they finally figure out how to put their throat on somebody, or do the Vikings do the comeback thing again? Well,
when you look at, that's been the tail of the tape since that Rams comeback in the second half. The Tampa Bay game, they were incredible in the first half on offense throwing the football. They didn't complete a single pass in the second half. Then against Denver, they blew a 17-3 lead in the second half after that Saquon Barkley touchdown. Jalen Hurts completely collapsed. And then last week against the Giants on Thursday Night Football, Jalen threw that pick. He missed Devontae Smith on a wide open touchdown that could have put the game on ice. I mean,
before you know it, you're down.
Right. It goes hand in hand. It's not a coincidence they're struggling to run the football and they're a bad second half offense. Because last year they would put together these 7 to 10 minute drives, kill an entire quarter of clock, and just put their foot on your throat. And that's the thing, is the passing game is too passive right now. So if the run game's not going to put a team down, Jalen's not doing it with his arm because he's not playing aggressive enough. So they either need to be more upfront with their passing game and trying to put the game away in the second half, or the run game, Saquon needs to be able to take over. It's got to be one of the two, and they're getting neither right now. So that's why teams are able to hang around. And Minnesota has enough talent to get back into this football game, I think, regardless of who's the quarterback, if you let them. And the secondary, again, if Quignon's banged up, then that's kind of a mismatch again, like it was against an inferior Giants opponent on Thursday night.
Yeah, it very much could be. And like seeing what the Giants and their kind of decimated, obliterated receiving core, right? Like they had Wan'Dale Robinson, who's having a good year, and then like a whole bunch of like who
it was like Lil Jordan Humphrey.
Yeah, it was like guys that are on their 9th team or guys that you'd never heard of. And so you compare that to what the Vikings have. Addison is a stud. Justin Jefferson is best in the world. You've got TJ Hawkinson as an outlet for Carson Wentz. There's been a rapport there as well. And so if you just look at the matchups, you're like, oh, who covers all these guys? But that's not what FanDuel does. So right. I want to caution people from looking at this and being like, ooh, Adoree Jackson versus Justin Jefferson. Which would harken back to 2022 when they played the Giants and Adoree Jackson was there and Justin Jefferson didn't do anything in that game. Well, that's because they bracketed him the entire game and the Vikings couldn't figure out how to move the ball against too high safety. Well, no, that's not true. They moved the ball a lot. It just wasn't to Jefferson. So Jefferson ended up getting like 26 yards in that game and everybody gives Adoree Jackson all these flowers for, shutting him down, but it wasn't really the matchup. It was double teams. So I fully expect the Eagles to do that again. But I do want to, before we sort of wrap this out, I do want to talk about the receivers on the other side. A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, they haven't had the seasons that they've wanted. What's going on there? Is there something more that, like, look, you're on the road. If this game goes bad and starts to kind of feel like it is slipping away from the Eagles, could it snowball on them, or am I totally overplaying those locker room issues?
Yeah, I think the locker room issues are definitely overblown. I think this has been a thing for the last 3 years that's talked about. I don't want to say it's not a problem at all, but for me, A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, them not being involved in these games, I think it's a direct result of Jalen Hurts' inconsistent play. His inaccuracy issues. I think he's missed both of those guys on game-winning touchdowns in back-to-back football games. And then I think when you look at Kevin Patullo, the passing concepts have just been so vanilla. And that's the thing is, like, Smith and Brown don't really need a lot of help getting open, but the scheme is not setting them up to succeed whatsoever. So I don't think any of this has to do with Brown and Smith struggling in a vacuum. It's on Patullo and Hurts. Like, those guys are holding back these star receivers, and they need to get going, or else Brown and Smith aren't going to get going.
It's so interesting. Like, oh, really? A very overly simplistic scheme that everybody is. Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz, they're the same guy. Really.
It's infuriating seeing the next day the route graphic that Next Gen Stats puts up, and Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. It's like the same line, like every single play. Huh? Yeah, it's the worst. So the scheme's not helping, and Jalen's just been very uncharacteristically inconsistent in the second half. So, but when it comes to like the inside locker room drama, I really don't think there is much to do with it right now. From an
emotional standpoint, it felt like that Giants game got away from them emotionally.
Yeah,
but that's I'm reading body language and like, who am I? Like, I'm
absolutely
idiot on his couch. Like,
but again, I don't think there's like this T.O. McNabb beef between Devontae and Jalen or AJ. I think there's frustration between the two for sure. Their relationship has changed, but I don't think you're going to see a trade request before the deadline. Or this happened last year, and then they went on a Super Bowl run. So I've been there, done that with this football team. So I'll believe it when I see it from that perspective.
So every crossover, I've forgotten to do this a bunch, so every other crossover it's been more like, but I've been asking for a bold prediction. This is something that I do on my show every Friday. We do bold predictions. I would love to put you in there. If you are correct, I will donate $20 to a charity of your choice.
Ooh.
And I've been giving out 3 free months of my Patreon page, patreon.com/LukeBraunNFL. You can just be, Louis, you can just have it if you want. But I'll give it to like a listener or something. There is actually a video breaking down every single tush push that the Eagles have run so far is on that page. So
that's incredible.
You guys want to see that. I mean, there's a lot more intrigue and nuance. I've done a ton of tush push content this week. I wrote a big article. I did that big video, and there's a lot more nuance to what's going on, what is working, what's working less than it did before, and outside of the should it be banned like Mike Florio conversation. But do you have a bold prediction that I can add to my pool?
Yeah. For the game, I'll say Josh Uche has 2 sacks, including the game winner in the fourth quarter. I think somebody's got to step up for the Eagles as a pass rusher. I think this could be a solid matchup. Uche's been their most consistent edge rusher this year from a pass rush win rate perspective. I think he gets 2 sacks in this game, including the game winner in the fourth quarter. He doesn't have a sack all year, so I'd put it on the bolder side. I think Uche's the hero on Sunday in Minnesota.
Uche is the hero. That could come in. So one of the other injury things that we probably should mention is Brian O'Neill, who is dealing with a sprained MCL, limited in practice. So he returned to practice this week in a limited capacity, but we'll see if that's just a ramp up or if he's really ready to play. Vikings fans, go check out Locked On Eagles. You always have to go check out the other show. Louis done a great job on Locked On Eagles for a long, long time. And Eagles fans, you are welcome to come hang out on Locked On Vikings. Listen to Wednesday's show. It's about the tush push if you don't want to go pay for the Patreon post. So you can go listen to my thoughts on there. And Eagles fans, I think you're going to like my thoughts on them more than you think.
I'm about to go check that out.
Yeah, check it out. You're going to like what I have to say. I think most of you will agree with me. For Louis DiBiase, I am Luke Braun here on the Crossover Thursday episode on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.